Welcome back to Washington Watch. Iran's foreign minister last week said a new nuclear deal between his country and the West was, quote, closer to an agreement in Vienna than ever before, end quote. But as U.S. Special Envoy for Iran, Robert Malley, pointed out at an international conference yesterday, they've been pretty close for some time. And you can be close for a very long time and never get there, end quote. One of the last remaining sticking points in the talks is reportedly the status of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which the Biden administration is considering removing from the foreign terrorist organization list, a move that former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said would be, quote, a dangerous capitulation, end quote. Joining me now to talk about this and more is Chris Mitchell, Middle East Bureau Chief for Christian Broadcasting Network, joining us live from Jerusalem. Chris, welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you again, Tony.
Thanks so much for staying up late there. It's about midnight, isn't it?
It's about 12:30. Okay.
All right. Well, give or take 30 minutes. All right. So what can you tell us about where things stand right now with the Iran nuclear talks? We had the Secretary of State there yesterday with your Prime Minister. What's it look like?
Well, it looks like the biggest sticking point is what you just mentioned, Tony, that the Biden administration would take the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps off the what's called the FTO, the Foreign Terrorist Organization. That seems to be something here in Israel they're very concerned about that what that would do. It would actually permit the IRGC to have billions of dollars. And they're one of the arms of the Islamic regime that really does these nefarious acts and throughout the Middle East. Now, what they had today and yesterday was what they call the Negev Summit. This was four Arab nations sent their foreign ministers. That would be Morocco, UAE, Bahrain, and also the Antony Blinken was there as well as Israel. And what it was symbolic. It was down at David Ben Gurion's home in Sid Boker. But I think what it actually did was give these foreign ministers a chance to tell Antony Blinken what they actually thought of the Iranian nuclear deal, as many people understand it is, and how dangerous that would be not only for Israel but for the entire Middle East and especially the Sunni Arab nations.
See, that's something that's often lost in this discussion. People think it's just Israel that doesn't want it, but there's a lot of your neighbors there in that neighborhood of Israel that do not want it either.
No, exactly, and they're as much in a danger to Iran, or Iran. This is how they consider Iran a mortal danger, as much or more as Israel. And so they had a united voice right now to try to convince Tony Blinken, this is such a dangerous deal. We also spoke earlier today, Tony, with former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren. He was telling us what he thought about it. And he said right now he would see if this deal goes through as is, really that it's going to lead to a major Middle East conflagration. We talked last week with Victoria Coates. She was the one actually in the State Department that helped put in the foreign terrorist organization to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. She feels it's going to be a very bad move for the Biden administration. And many people here in Israel and the Middle East can't see why the Biden administration will do what this deal says. They could give as many as $90 billion or more to the Islamic regime, really giving them an economic lifeline. And as Michael Oren was explaining to us, what Iran's plan is actually to surround Israel with, ballistic and precision-guided missiles, in Hezbollah with Lebanon, and Hamas, the Houthis down in Yemen, as well as Iraqi militias in Iraq, and also the Iran itself, so that when Israel, if it has to go ahead and attack Iran's nuclear facilities, they can pummel Israel from so many directions. So this is really a very, very bad deal. Many people believe here in the Middle East that, as I said, could lead to a conflagration.
Chris, yesterday, Tony Blinken said that in principle we stand with Israel, but it's not so much the principle that's a concern, it's the practical applications of this treaty with Iran.
Exactly. And a lot of people say, it was ironic that the Blinken came here to say, we have your back. Well, some people believe that's actually a bit of a stab in the back to Israel and to many of these other countries here in the Middle East. They say, and as Tony Blinken said yesterday, they believe the JCPOA, which is called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, is the only way to go ahead and put Iran's nuclear program in a box. But what it actually does, it allows enriched uranium to continue. And in a few years, these sunset clauses will actually allow Iran to have all the enriched uranium it needs to have not only a nuclear bomb, but an arsenal. It also fails to address two of the other programs that make a nuclear weapon so dangerous. The nuclear warhead that has to be developed, and also the ballistic missiles. Iran has one of the most advanced ballistic missile programs in the entire world. And this it doesn't address these two elements, key elements of a nuclear program.
Well, and it extends the time, but they're going to get it eventually, but we're going to actually give them money in the process, which will not only help them in the development of this by funding it, but fund their terrorist activity that's going on around the world through proxies. Chris,
exactly, and they had.
We're out of time, but again, I want to thank you for staying up late and joining us. Always great to see you and talk with you, and I'm sure we'll be checking back within days to see how this deal goes forward, if it does.
I'm sure we will, Tony. Thank you.
All right, Chris Mitchell.